everybody, you're watching Making It Look Great number 5. My name is Maltanen and this is a bonus tutorial considering the first tutorial on this training, as you can see. If we take a look at the final render that I showed you, you'll notice a few differences. We basically copied the whole effect, we did this whole element from scratch, but there are some things that we didn't actually touch in the tutorial. So let's just go ahead and see what that is. The first and most obvious thing is this outer ring, this outer scale, or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to do this, and also, if you take a closer look, this element, this inner ring as we called it, has a little bit of a 3D extrusion to it, as you can see. And this looks pretty cool, don't you think? So let's just go ahead and try to do that. First, we'll try to do this extrusion. So let's just go ahead. And we're interested in the inner ring layer. So let's just make some room here. If you are familiar with my work, then you already know that I created something that I called a 3D shape extruder. This is a custom effect, so in other words, a very clever preset that allows you to extrude shape layers in After Effects CS3 and CS4. So we're going to use that to create this extrusion seen in this rendered file that I prepared before recording this tutorial. So let's just go ahead and twirl down the inner ring and see the content. Okay, so we've got the outer ring and we've got the inner ring, and those are of course outer and inner ring of the actual inner ring layer, so everything that you see in here. So first of all, let's try and create this black fill in this. So just go ahead and try to target the right content of this layer, and I think this should be the outer ring. So just go ahead and we can simply click add and click fill, and that should take care of the problem. As you can see, we've got it filled with the red color, so we can now twirl this down and choose the right color, which is black in our case. And just click OK, that should be it. But ooh, all the other content disappeared, and that's pretty easy to fix. We just need to move this layer down like so. And that's it. That should fix the problem, and it did fix the problem. So the only thing left to do is to actually apply the extrusion. Let me just make all those additional layers shy so they don't get in the way, because we need some more room here. Okay, and let's go ahead and apply 3D shape extruder. And by the way, this is included on this DVD in the extras folder, so go ahead and check it out, install it if you haven't already. And let's just grab it and apply it to our layer. This will create a new group, as you can see in here. We can call it 3D shape extruder, like so. And to take advantage of this custom effect, we need to put the element that we wish to extrude into this group above the repeater. So the thing we want to extrude is actually the outer ring. But since we set some expressions in it, as you remember, we can't just move it here, because then the path to that element will change and expressions will stop working. So the safest way to go is to simply duplicate this and then put it inside the extrusion group. We'll probably need to fix some little glitches, but that's okay. Okay, yes. Here we have some first results, but we don't need this thick strokes, thick blue stroke on it. So let's just go ahead here, twirl this down and find the stroke. Okay, here it is, and we can just simply get rid of it like that. And that should fix the problem. Okay, now we only have the black extrusion, but I do wish this had a stroke on the outside. So to do that, we just need to select the 3D shape extruder group and add a stroke to this, just like that. And it's really hard to see, but the stroke is there, as you can see, this white stroke. So let's just go ahead and set the right color. This is the color that we're interested in. And we can also make it a little bit thicker. Let's make it 3. That should be fine. Unfortunately, it takes a while to render, but you know, that's what you get when you're doing cool designs like this one. Okay, let's decrease the depth of the extrusion. And okay, I think we're ready to go. It looks okay. Let's just see how it looks on some other frames. Haha, very nice, okay. Oh, but I think that we lost the inner ring of the inner ring in here. As you remember, we had a circle connecting those little squares that it made it look like a cog, right? So let's just go ahead and try to fix that. I think that we need to go into the outer ring and actually turn the fill off, because since we've got the extrusion that is filled with black, we don't need this fill. And I think that this is what's causing that inner circle to disappear, because it just overlays on top of it. Yes, that's right. Okay, so that's it. Pretty cool. I like it. So it's, as you can see, it looks pretty much the same as it looks in here. Very nice. And the last thing to do is to build this global outer circle. So let's just unhide our shy layers and create a new shape layer. Yes, here it is. Or even better, we can delete it. Sorry for the confusion. Make sure that we have no layer selected. Just make some room and simply double click on the ellipse tool, and that will create a new shape layer with a perfect circle in it. And now we can just modify this circle a little bit. So let's just go ahead and do that. We can close this palette. We're gonna need this palette, and I'll show you why in a second. We can get rid of the fill, so let's just delete it. And as you remember, those parameters control how our gyroscopic element looks, all its global parameters like radius, offset, and radius in general. So we would like this circle to be a little bit bigger than the actual radius of our element. So let's just go ahead and twirl down the ellipse path options, and here we have the size options. And as you can guess, if I set it to 300, it's gonna be 300, right? So let's just go ahead and make a very simple expression, just simple pick whipping, that should be it. Let's call this newly created variable radius equals, now we're going to point to this. And as you remember from the original tutorial, this value actually needs to be multiplied by 2. I explained it in the original tutorial, so just go back if you need to remind yourself why that is. And since I would like this to be a little bit bigger than the actual element, I'm going to multiply this not by 2, but by 2.5. And that should create a circle with a radius of 250, which is exactly what I want. So now let's just close the expression saying radius. So in other words, just apply whatever the value is in here to both dimensions, x and y. And that should be it. Hit enter to confirm. Already looks good. Let's just wait for it to render. Yes, perfect. Okay. So let's just go ahead and make a stroke a little bit thinner, maybe 4. I'm guessing 4 should be just fine. No, it's still a little bit too thick, maybe 2. But I'll leave that up to you. There's no mystery in here. Just set the parameter to whatever you like it to be, right? Okay, let's close this down. And what else? Oh yeah, I got a very cool trick to show you how to do those lines on the circle. So let's just go ahead, and we can do it pretty much the same as we did with the circle. So let's just go ahead and pick the rectangle tool and double click it. That will create a new rectangle group in here. And again, we can turn off the fill because we don't need it. We can delete it actually. Twirl it down, and we want to move it below the ellipse group. That doesn't really matter in this case, but it just, you know, better organizing, at least in my perspective. So let's just go ahead and set the size. We want the size to be 0 on the X. So in other words, we get a line. We could, of course, use the pen tool, but I'm using the rectangle because it's easier to use expressions on them. I know that most of you don't like expressions, but I try to make it as simple as possible. And as you can see, it really makes sense in this case, since everything is dynamic and is driven from those 2 parameters. So if you don't like it, too bad. Just sit back and enjoy the tutorial. Okay, let's make this 20 pixels long. Okay, that looks fine. And now we need to offset the position of this rectangle so that it matches our circle. And this offset value should actually be equal to the radius of our circle, correct? Correct. So There's no mystery in here, but we do need to divide this number by 2. Again, if you don't know why, refer to the original tutorial and find out. Okay, so let's just make some more room. And we need to offset it only on the y. So let's just click here and say that y equals... Actually, we don't need to call this variable y. We can call it whatever, but it just makes more sense. So y equals, we're going to grab this value, or this value, because they are the same, correct? And we're going to divide it by 2. And then we're going to say that we want to offset this circle only on the y. So we're not offsetting it on the x, so 0, and then y, and that should be it. As you can see, the rectangle moved to this position exactly where we wanted it. And now we can apply the repeater on it. So I just go ahead, add repeater, and this by default creates a repeater of 3 copies offsetted by 100 pixels on the x. And we don't want that. We don't want to offset the position. We want to offset the rotation. So let's just go ahead to the transform of the repeater and set the position offset to 0. Now all the 3 copies sit in here. But if we set the rotation to, say, 20 degrees, this is what we're going to get. Pretty cool, huh? So now the only thing left to do is to take the whole circle and make this rotation offset value equal to 360 degrees, correct? Divided by the amount of copies that we have, correct? Correct. So let's just go ahead and do that. Create a simple expression and say 360 divided by the amount of copies that we want. And that's it. We can now twirl this down. Sweet! We've got 3 copies and they are equally spaced on the whole circle. So now we can increase the number to maybe 10 and see how that looks. If we don't like the look, we can increase the amount of copies, decrease the amount of copies. It's pretty cool. Now 10 is a little bit too little. I think maybe 30. That should be cool. Oh yes, that's it. Okay, so that covers this tutorial and recreating this element from scratch. I hope you liked it. See you in the next bonus tutorial. Happy After Effecting!